There's something strangely emotional about seeing your face drawn by someone else. Sometimes people laugh, sometimes they're impressed, and sometimes they look at the drawing and become unexpectedly quiet, which is odd when you think about it. After all, it's just a sketch, a few lines on a piece of paper, an exaggerated version of features that were already there. So, why can it feel so personal? The answer may have less to do with art and more to do with psychology, because your face isn't just part of your appearance, it's part of your identity. From the moment we're born, faces become one of the most important things our brains learn to recognize. Over time, we develop a mental image of what we look like, and more importantly, who we are. But that image isn't as objective as we like to think. It's shaped by memories, experiences, emotions, and even by how we hope other people see us. That's where caricatures become fascinating. A caricature doesn't create a new face, it amplifies an existing one. The curve of a smile, the shape of a nose, the way someone naturally raises an eyebrow. Details that usually blend into the background suddenly become impossible to ignore. And that's when something interesting happens, because when people look at a caricature, they're not just looking at a drawing, they're looking at someone else's perception of them. And that can be surprisingly uncomfortable. Most of us carry around a carefully constructed image of ourselves, a version that feels familiar, predictable, safe. But when another person interprets our face, that sense of control disappears. For a moment, we're forced to confront a question we rarely ask ourselves. Is this really how other people see me? What's interesting is that the reaction often has very little to do with attractiveness. It's usually about self-image, about identity, about the gap between who we think we are and how we're perceived. That's why two people can react completely differently to the exact same experience. One person bursts out laughing, another studies every detail, another becomes strangely quiet. The drawing hasn't changed, but the meaning of it has. In a way, a caricature acts like a psychological mirror, not because it reveals some absolute truth, but because it creates a collision between two perspectives. The version of yourself that exists in your mind, and the version of yourself that exists in someone else's. Maybe that's why portraits have fascinated human beings for centuries. They aren't just about capturing appearances, they're about capturing impressions, personality, presence, the invisible things we communicate without saying a word. And perhaps that's the real reason a simple caricature can trigger such strong emotions. Because it reminds us that our identity doesn't belong entirely to us. Part of it exists in the minds of the people around us. No matter how carefully we manage our image, there will always be a difference between how we see ourselves and how others see us. And maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe that's what makes human identity so fascinating.